Hey everybody, my name is Nathan Smith and I'm the Digital Programming Coordinator here at the Central Arkansas Library System. Thank you so much for joining me today. Today's class is Your Digital Library, eBooks, audiobooks, and more. We're going to talk about a couple of digital services that you can access to, to get a hold of ebooks, audiobooks, and more for your phone, your tablet, your computer, whatever devices you want to use. And so hopefully you will get a lot out of this class um, and be able to take advantage of a lot of our cool digital services that we have. Before we get started, there are a few quick preliminary things I always like to get out of the way at the beginning so that you know what's going on. First things first, we've got a ton of great virtual events coming up here at the library. If you want to check out what those are, you can head to cals.org and move your mouse over the events section up at the top of the screen, and then click on find an event online, and that'll get you to this lovely page right here, where you can scroll through and see what all we've got coming up. Lots of great stuff, so definitely check it out. Hey, there we are. If you want to find out more about upcoming technology classes, again, move your mouse over events, head down to technology classes here, click on view and register for classes, and you'll see a lot of great stuff that we've got coming up. And I'm working on posting more of these event pages today so that you know what else I've got going on. Of particular note for our purposes today is the companion class that's next week, same time, same place, which is Your Digital Library, Movies, Music, and More. So we're going to talk about how to access video content, streaming music, and a bunch of other great stuff using other digital services that we offer to you for free with your library card. So if that sounds at all interesting to you, then come on back next week and check that out. We've got Surf Secure, which is about learning to protect your privacy online. We've got video for the web, Adobe Acrobat, library resources for the job hunt, lots of great stuff. In May, I'm planning to do my always popular Excel class again. So I'm sure a lot of folks will be interested in that. Definitely come join me for that if you would like to learn how to use Excel. I think everybody should learn how to use Excel. It's just really useful. So come on down. I'll be happy to have you in any of those classes. All right. Two other quick things to kind of tackle before we dive into the material itself. One of those is if you have questions at any point, please speak up and let me know. Don't worry about whether it's a silly question or anything like that. I'm not going to be at all concerned about that, and I certainly won't judge you on it. What I want to do is make sure that you learn stuff that's useful to you. The point of a technology class, as you might have guessed, is for folks to learn things about technology that are useful to them. If you're not learning things about technology that are useful to them, if you're just letting me kind of bulldoze through my outline and dot every I and cross every T, but you're not understanding what I'm saying, then it's pointless for us to have this class. We might as well just turn off all our gear and go take a nap. But if I'm giving you information that's useful, and if you run into problems or questions, if you're asking those questions, then you're likely to get a lot out of the class. So just let me know anytime when you have a question, and we'll address it. I want to make sure that those questions get addressed. In fact, if I have to leave stuff out of what I would normally do in the class in order to accommodate answering more questions, I'm going to do that, because that's a better use of our time. So if you want to ask a question and you're joining me here in Zoom, if you're on your computer, head down to the bottom of your Zoom window and you should see a little speech bubble that says chat. Click on that, type in your question, press enter or return if you're on a Mac, and you can send that question my way. If you're on Zoom on a mobile device, tap the middle of the screen, tap the More button at the top right of the screen, and then tap Chat in the menu that appears. And that is going to get you to the chat in the Zoom mobile app. If you have questions and you are joining us via live stream on YouTube or on Facebook, on YouTube, you're going to find just to the right of my window a little live chat box. You can type your questions in the chat there and send them to me that way. And on Facebook, of course, just ask your questions down in the comments, and I'll see those as well. So that's, oh yeah, one other thing related to that is if there are technical difficulties at any point, and sometimes there are, please let me know as soon as possible. If my camera cuts off, if my mic cuts off, if it's clear that I'm trying to show you something on my screen, but my screen is not appearing, or what I'm describing is not showing up on the screen, please let me know about that as quickly as possible. That way we can make sure that we use our time well in the class, and you're able to get the most out of it. All right, so I think that's all. And like I said, let me know if any questions come up, and I am going to go ahead and dive in and get us rolling here. Let's see, here we go. Okay, so here we are in my web browser. And in order to get to any of the services that we're going to talk about today, usually the best way to do it, or sort of the simplest way to get there, is to head to cals.org. That's our website, cals.org. Type that in, press enter in your address bar up there, and that'll get you straight to our website. To get to most of these digital services, the easiest way to tackle that is, let me go ahead and turn my camera off for a moment, just in case, so that those of you watching the live stream can see. A lot of times the best way to get there is to click on the login button up at the top right here. When you click on that, it's going to give you a bunch of things. Up here at the very top, you can log into the catalog so that you can find so that you can see what items we have available for folks to check out. You can even place holds and be able to pick up the items at whichever branch is most convenient for you. It's super duper easy. So I definitely encourage you to browse around there. But what we're going to be talking about today are a couple of our digital services. One of those is Overdrive right here, and the other is Flipster down here. Those two services are what we're going to be tackling today. Freegal and RB Digital that are over here, we're going to talk about next week during that class. All right, so to head to Overdrive, which is where we're going to start in this session, what I'm going to do is move my mouse down here and click Get an eBook. And here we are on the Overdrive site. Now, One thing that I will point out right off the bat is there is actually a faster way to get to this that I typically use. And that faster way is up at the top, you'll find, why will this not get out of the way? Okay. My Zoom is just really, really blocking the view here. Okay, here we go. So we've got the, so we're here on the CALS Overdrive collection. And what we'll need to do is, there's a really easy way to get to this in the future now that we're here. And that is, you can actually head to cals.overdrive.com, like so. So CALS.OVERDRIVE, overdrive, all one word, .com. If you head to that address, that'll get you directly here to the library's Overdrive collection. So what I've done on my computer is I've actually bookmarked it. If I click this bookmark right here, that takes me directly to this page so that I don't have to worry about going through the library's website directly. And that gets me there just fine. So let's see, there we go. So let's see, now we've got, well, let's talk about what Overdrive is and why it's useful. So Overdrive is a digital library app that does a bunch of different things. The most notable here for our purposes is it does eBooks and audiobooks. So when you get, so you can download up to 10, or you can, check out up to 10 eBooks and audiobooks at any one time from the collection. It's it can be any mixture of those. So you could get all eBooks, all audiobooks, or some combination of them. And you have a 14-day checkout period for those items. So if you get the so up at the top, you'll notice we have magazines up here. That's a new addition. We'll talk about that, but that's just recently become something that we've added in our Overdrive collection. But if we scroll down here a little bit, we'll see some audiobooks and some ebooks. So here we've got a collection of audiobooks for the whole family, e-cookbooks, retro reads, books from before the 21st century, Craft-a-Palooza, books with the blues, etc., etc., etc. There are a bunch of different collections here, including these no-wait ones, which are essentially public domain books that you can check out in the Overdrive collection as well. So we've got our, so basically on this front page, you can see essentially the things that we've recently added and specific featured collections, kind of like if you go to the library in person and you're browsing around, you'll find the you'll see little displays that we've set up with various themes, and those will help you. So those highlight interesting books or books with a specific theme, those types of things. So if you see something you're interested in, of course, you have the ability to borrow it right here from the front page. All you have to do is click the borrow button if it's available. For some items, you won't see a borrow button. Instead, you'll see place a hold down here like this. And and those indicate either items that aren't yet available or items that aren't available because they're checked out. The Overdrive collection works a lot like the physical collection that we have at the library, at least in terms of the eBooks and audiobooks. With the eBooks and audiobooks, when you check out or when you check one out, you check out one of a specific number of copies that we've purchased of that item. So if we purchase 10 copies, the newest John Grisham or whatever, then 10 people can have that book checked out at any given time. If the 11th person comes along, even though it is a digital ebook or a digital audiobook, if that 11th person comes along, they're going to have to wait until a copy is available because we've only purchased 10 copies at a time. And that has to do with limitations put on us by publishers for the most part. So the checkout periods are 14 days, 2 weeks exactly. Thankfully, though, there are no overdue fees, and there's no sort of losing books or anything like that. If you're checking out the digital items, when your checkout period's over, then that item just doesn't work anymore. And you have to check it out again if you want it to work. That's really convenient because, well, then you don't have to be concerned about remembering when your due dates are and all of that stuff if you get sidetracked or whatever. Excuse me. Then it's after lunch, y'all. Then you can continue to, or then it's not going to be a big deal. It just won't work if you go to open it up again later on, and you'll have to check it back out. That also means that your wait times are pretty predictable with Overdrive. So if you're on hold for, if you have an item on hold and 5 people have it, 5 people, there's one copy and 5 people, there's one person who's checked it out and there are another 4 people on the holds list, then if you're number 5 on the holds list, the maximum that you would have to wait for that particular item would be 8 weeks. No, I guess 10 weeks if the person checked it out right before you got on the holds list. So that makes things nice and predictable. It's very easy to figure out, like, oh, when will I have access to this book? And you might even get it earlier, of course, because some people read fast or listen fast. And so you may get earlier access to it. Okay, so let's talk about getting around in the Overdrive collection. The Overdrive collection, of course, you can look at all of these featured collections, but if you're not particularly interested in what's here on the front page, then you can dig a little deeper. One way to do that is to click on this subjects option up here at the top left. And when you do, you'll see what's in the collection as of right now. So it says browse subjects, and you have the ability to filter down a little bit by the format. All formats is what's selected right now. Looks like we have, at this moment, 95,250 titles available altogether. That's a lot. But you can also filter things so that you only see ebooks or only audiobooks or only magazines. So so you can filter it any number of different ways. In this subjects area, though, I'm going to get rid of that little message, make things a little cleaner. In the subjects area, though, what you're going to see is basically 6 categories. So you've got fiction, nonfiction, and these are just the general or adult geared fiction and nonfiction. Juvenile fiction, so for kids, juvenile nonfiction for kids, young adult fiction for teens and maybe younger, younger adults, and young adult nonfiction. And then down here, number 7, magazines. So this is an easy way to browse and find exactly what you're looking for. So if I, for instance, choose science fiction here, then I'm going to see a list of science fiction titles showing up for me here. I can scroll through. I can look to see if I can if there's something specific that I'm interested in, and if I find it, I can borrow it down here using the borrow button, or I can place a hold if if it's not available right now. So you'll notice what's actually happened here is it's actually done kind of a search. It's really just giving me search results, but it's filtering it down based on two criteria here. First of all, it has to be in the category fiction, and it has to be in the category science fiction. I can also filter my results here by other criteria. So there's availability over here. So I have all titles available now or recommend to library. All titles is just going to show me everything regardless of whether it's available or not. Available now is going to show me only things I could check out right this moment, so that I'm not going, oh, I'm really interested in that, but it's not going to, but I can't, but I can't check it out right now, and I'm really looking for something to read as soon as I can. There's also this recommend to library, which we'll talk about a little bit later, but for now, we'll hold off on that. Your audience, since I already looked, or since I already selected to look for sort of the general science fiction, my audience options here are general adult, and then mature adult, which might feature some things that are a little more graphic. So you would want to be mindful of what your limits are, and that sort of thing. Under date added, we've got a few options here to basically to get to the newer things, or the things that have recently been purchased. And then these eBooks and audiobooks areas are places where we can filter it down so that I can get items that are specifically compatible with my device or with what I'm trying to do. So there are a number of different ebook formats here. The Kindle book, of course, if you have a Kindle e-reader device, that's clicking on this is going to filter it down to items that are available on the Kindle. Excuse me. Some ebooks are not available on Kindle. And so it looks like it'll filter about 140 titles that you can't access on a Kindle. You would have to use a different type of e-reader or read it on your computer. Overdrive Read here, these are essentially books that you can read when you're connected or when you're browsing the website specifically. So if you have access to a computer, you can get to that, or you can, if you're sitting in front of your computer, you could read this. EPUB ebook, so that's going to be the format of ebook that's compatible with most e-readers that are not Kindles. Open EPUB ebook is the same as the one above, except that it's not, except that there's no what we call digital rights management. Basically, there are no restrictions in terms of copying it or keeping it long term, so you'd actually have access to it for a long time. And these are going to be public domain books, classics, that are old enough to no longer be under copyright and things like that. PDF ebook, that's going to be basically the that's going to be basically your it's an Adobe PDF format. It's pretty unusual for it's pretty unusual for ebooks. It's not honestly a great format for ebooks unless you have very sort of visual content that needs to be laid out in a very specific way. But there are a few books that are in that format. And then this MediaDo ebook, this is going to be an ebook format that works with particularly graphic novels and manga, things like that. Under audiobooks, there's Overdrive Listen and MP3. So the Overdrive Listen audiobooks are ones that you can listen to in your web browser on a computer, and the MP3 ones are the ones that you can download to a device, like a phone or a tablet or whatever. And then you can filter it down by additional subjects, interest levels. So basically, would the content be interesting to people in these specific grade levels in this case? And then we have various types of reading levels, reading level measurements that help you sort of figure out essentially whether the text will be difficult to read or not. And that's particularly useful, of course, if you're looking for a book for kids or things like that. So, and up at the top, you can also sort in a variety of ways. So date added, that's going to show me when it was added to the CALS Overdrive collection, not necessarily when it was published, when it was actually added to our collection when we purchased it. But you could also sort by books' popularity for all libraries that offer access to Overdrive. Relevance, so essentially let the computer surface the ones they think you might be most interested in. Release date, so newest on top. Alphabetically by title or author. And then popularity, library, so basically how popular the book is with other CALS patrons. So you can sort it out however you like, and hopefully find exactly what you're looking for pretty easily. We'll talk about more of the details of these in a moment, but I want to show you a few other ways to get to things here. If I click on collections up here at the top, I can see a list of a bunch of different collections. Some of these collections were put together by the people who run Overdrive. And some of these collections were put together by our very own Readers Advisory staff. So, and collection development. So some of these were created specifically, collections were created specifically for CALS patrons, and some were created by the company that runs this service. So you can use these to quickly get to a bunch of different things in a bunch of different categories. One additional thing I'll point out is there is an available now in at least here. And there are collections for new things of various sorts. So you can filter stuff down and find just the new things, just what we've recently added. There's a most popular collection, and so on and so forth. So you can get to a lot of cool stuff that way. You can also, if you're browsing for kids, click on the kids link right here. And that's essentially going to take you to a kids targeted version of Overdrive that'll only show you juvenile and young adult titles. So this way you can sort of filter out anything that's geared more towards the grown-ups and have a collection that's more friendly for kids and teens. You'll notice when you're in this sort of kids mode, you'll see you've got there's a different color scheme and layout, and or there's a different color scheme. The layout is the same, I should say. And so it's easy to distinguish that you're logged in there. Excuse me. My goodness. All right. Up here at the top, I'm going to click back to main collection to get back in. If I click on Kindle books up here, really all that's going to do is show me only ebooks and only ebooks that are compatible with Kindle devices. And then clicking this kids link takes me to the same place that we just saw with the kids over here under collections. You can also, of course, search. So if I click search up here at the top, or click on the little magnifying glass, it pops out a little search box underneath, and I can search for whatever I want: the name of a book, the name of a series, the name of an author, whatever the case may be. I'll type in the name of a book this time, and I can either, if I see exactly what I want, I can click on it here, or I can press enter to go ahead and go to the search results themselves. Of course, this looks familiar. It's pretty similar to what we just saw a moment ago. And if I see what I'm interested in, I can kind of browse through it and take a look. I can filter just like we did before, and I can resort my search results if I want to. In this case, though, what I'm going to do is actually click on an item. So this one, you can see down here, there's a borrow button. So this one's available, I know. So I'm going to click on that and take a look at the details. This one is an audiobook. And we've got the cover art here, of course, the title, any subtitles, if there are any. And then the name of the author. Sometimes you'll also see a second name here, even if it's not a collaboration between multiple authors. And if it's an audiobook, usually the second name that you'll see is the narrator, which is kind of useful. If you're looking for more books by a particular author, you can just click on their name here, and it'll actually pull up things that are related to that person. I'll go back. So we have a few different options here. Underneath the author's name and the narrator's name, if that's different, this one's read by the author, but if it was read by a narrator, you would see that person's name. Underneath that, of course, is the format. So in this case, the format is audiobook. You also have some stars here, so you can rate things on a scale of 1 to 5 stars. You can see what sort of the average rating is by looking here, but it doesn't really do a whole lot, as far as I can tell, to rate things. So if you find satisfaction in rating things on a scale of 1 to 5 stars, then there are your stars for rating things. If that prospect does not excite or interest you, then you can safely ignore these and be just fine. You'll see underneath 1 of 1 copy available here. So in this case, for this particular audiobook, what's happening, or we purchased 1 copy of it, and that 1 copy is available to be checked out. If it was checked out, then we'd see 0 of 1 copy available. So it'll show us how many are available and how many there are total. There's a borrow button here, so we can borrow it if we're ready. And we can also listen to a sample, which we'll probably do in a moment. Down here, we have add to wish list. So you can keep a wish list of up to 5,000 titles by just clicking clicking the little bookmark here. And that way you can come back later on if you find something that you're interested in, but you're like, oh, I'm already in the middle of something, I don't need to read this right now. Then you can use this add to wish list to remember it and be able to access it quickly later on. And I'll show you how that works shortly. You also have add to history here. You can keep track of your reading history in Overdrive. You can have it tracked automatically through the service, but of course, you may also read books that are not available or that you didn't get through Overdrive. So if you checked out the physical version of the book, or if you listened to, if you got the CD audiobook, or oh my goodness, y'all. Or if you got the, or if you purchased the audiobook from some service or other things like that. All of those are situations where you might use this add to history. And we'll talk about where the history is and what it does a little later as well. Excuse me. Underneath that, we have a description to tell us a little more information about the particular book. When you click on details, you'll see who published it, whether it's abridged or unabridged a lot of times, and maybe some other publication information as well. And you'll find some other stuff down here that's that could be of interest. For example, it shows for audiobooks, it shows the duration, how long it lasts. So this one's just a hair shy of 3 hours long, pretty short. And then it also shows you how big of a file it is. So in this case, looks like actually this is the one you'd be downloading, the MP3. So it looks like it's right around 86 megabytes in size, which is pretty small. If I click on reviews, I can see I sometimes, depending on the title, I can see reviews from various outlets. In this case, we have a Publishers Weekly review, and we have AudioFile, which does reviews for audiobooks. So I could read a little more about it. If I scroll down, I'll see you may also like, and a lot of these are going to be based on a pretty a very basic sort of correlation of people who checked out this book also checked out this book at a high rate. And so usually you won't find much that's particularly, it may or may not necessarily be related in terms of content, in terms of the target audience. I think this is a very interesting selection they have down here. We've got this science book or sort of self-help health book about telomeres, and we've got an autobiography of Stephen Curtis Chapman. You just never know down here. So you might find something useful down here, but if you see something and you're like, how does that relate to this? It probably doesn't really. So just bear that in mind. Over here on the right, you've got some other basic information, the formats that the book is available in, the audiobook specifically. We have an ebook version of this, which we'll look at in a moment. But it's going to show me specifically the formats the audiobook is available in: Overdrive Listen and MP3 audiobook. So I can listen to it in my web browser on my computer, or I can download it into one of the apps and listen to it that way. And that's usually the way you want to do it with the audiobooks, to be honest. And then under subjects, we have history, sociology, military, and nonfiction. Those are the categories that they put this in. And it tells you what languages it's in. Okay, so if I want to listen to a sample and just see, with audiobooks, it can be really hit and miss. There are a lot of great audiobook narrators, and there are a lot of audiobook narrators who, to me at least, listening to their voices is like listening to fingernails on a chalkboard. So I like to make sure that I am that before I check out a book, or at least shortly after I check out a book, the narrator's voice and reading style is one that I can stand. So it's really handy that we have this listen to a sample option. I'm going to click on that. And what it does is it brings up that Overdrive Listen player that I talked about earlier, the web browser player. When I click that to open this up, you'll see I've got a bunch of different controls here. But the main thing I'm going to point out, I've got the play button here. And I can
Hachette
see
Audio presents
from this,
Tribe on Homecoming and Belonging. Written and read.
and I've turned off the sound sharing just so that you can kind of see, so that it's not too distracting. So there's a, so we've got our cover art here, we've got our play and pause, and we can use this little dot to scrub back and forth in the audiobook. If I skip around, it's going to give me this little thing, which I can use to click and get back to where I was before I started scrubbing around in the book. We've also got up here chapters, if there are any, and then tips and secrets, so you can see a few little tips. There's a little moon here. That's the sleep timer. Obviously, for a little preview like this, it's only 5 minutes long. The sleep timer is not going to do very much. But if I click on that, it's just going to start the sleep timer for 30 minutes. And then when 30 minutes is up, it's going to pause the audiobook. Or I can hold down on this and I can drag down so that I can set a specific length of time for it to play, or I can just have it go to the end of the chapter. And then you've got your speed controls up here. So by default, of course, you're going at regular speed 1x. So just the speed that the audiobook was recorded at. If I click this, I can go up to 1 1/4, so a little faster, 1 1/2 speed, 1 3/4 speed, and then double time. So particularly if you're listening to a book just strictly for information, you might use this to kind of get through it a little bit faster, and that can be quite handy. So I'll hit the X here to get out of our sample, and let's say I've decided to borrow it. So I'm going to click on borrow right here, and it's going to prompt me to sign in because I'm not. So all I'm going to do here is type in my library card number and the PIN associated with my library card. When I click sign in, now I'm signed in. So it's prompting me, okay, I can set my checkout period to be 7 days rather than 14 days if I want, or I can just leave it. I'm going to leave it at 14 days and click borrow. All right, so it tells me it's checked out to me until April 13th. You can borrow 3 more titles. So I have it from now until April 13th. If I decide I want to, I can return it early if I finish with it ahead of time, which seems pretty likely since it's only 3 hours and I have 2 weeks to get through it. I can download. I can click download here and download it to my computer, or I can listen now in browser, which will open up again this Overdrive Listen player that we saw earlier. And this time I have access to a little bit more. I can see the full chapter listing, and there's a bookmarks option here that I didn't have before. If I click this at any point during playback of the audiobook, I can bookmark parts that are important, so that way I can go back to them whenever I need to. And in fact, if I, in fact, if I return this and then check it back out another time, my bookmarks will still be there, and that's nice. So I'll close this tab for now, and I'll hit this X up here, and let's continue on with our tour. Okay, I'm going to go back a little ways here to my search results. Here I am in the search results, and when I click on the ebook, you'll see it's the same material, but this one is the ebook version, and it is checked out. 0 of 1 copy available, so it says wait time about 2 weeks. So assuming that someone checked it out essentially just before we did our search, then we should have around 2 weeks to wait. If somebody checked it out, 10 days ago or something like that, this will still say about 2 weeks because it's just estimating by the number of checkout periods between me and the book. But it shouldn't be any longer than 2 weeks because somebody has it checked out. Well, I guess it could be, but for reasons that we'll talk about a little bit later. But a little over 2 weeks is probably the maximum amount of time that we would have to wait. I'm going to click place a hold on this one. My holds position number 1 on 1 copy. So I'm the first one on the holds list. And when it's ready to be checked out, then I'll get an email telling me that it's ready to be checked out. All right. So if I head to so up at the top, I've got a few other things. There's a little bell here. If there are holds, it'll notify me when it's available, and some other stuff like that. We've got this little stack of books, and we've got this drop-down menu that says My Account. Since I'm signed in with my library card information, if I click this stack of books, that's going to take me to the hold shelf, to the loans page, the things that I have checked out. Or if I click My Account, I can go directly to one of those pages. Let me head to the loans page. All right, so here we are on the loans page. On the loans page, what we'll do is we've got we've got our list of things that we currently have checked out. We've got our audiobook that we just borrowed. We've got a magazine that I checked out, and we've got a few other things, some kids audiobooks and ebooks, and even a few sort of read-along type books that will actually read the book to you, and as you're turning the pages, which is kind of nice. So with any of these, if I'm interested in, if I want to read it now, I can do read now in browser, or there's listen now in browser for the audiobooks. I have the option to return an item by just clicking return here. In fact, I'll probably do that for one of these right now, just to demonstrate. So I'll click return. Are you sure you want to return this title? Yep. I'll click return title. And there it goes. Okay. So now I've returned one of the books, and I've got a little more space in my borrowing limits here. I have up here at the top, it says you can borrow 4 more titles. That's because, as I mentioned, you can have up to 10, and the magazines don't actually count towards your limit. So I checked out an issue of of the New Yorker, the April 5th issue, but that's not counting towards my limit. So I have 6 titles checked out for the purposes of the limits here. I'll go ahead and click see all account limits and we can talk about this. So loans, you can have up to 10 items checked out. And then holds, you can also have up to 10 items on hold. So I have 4 items on hold currently out of my 10. Renewals 3 days before expiration. So if I've got something that's close to being needing to something where my checkout period is close to expiring, like this one expires in 2 hours, I can click renew and I can renew it like so. There we go. And now expires on April 13th, 2021. So it's been renewed and I'm good to go. It has to be within 3 days of the end of the checkout period. Otherwise that renew won't show. Like I couldn't renew this one right now, even though no one's waiting for it. If an item is on hold that I have checked out, so if someone else is waiting for it, then I can't renew it because that would keep them from checking it out even after my checkout period ends. But I can click request again. And what that's going to do is put me at the bottom of the holds list so that I can, so that I am ready to, so that I'm ready to check it out as soon as it's available to me. Again, so what'll happen since this expires in 2 hours and since there's a holds list, the next person on the holds list is going to get it. They will have their 2 weeks with it, and then since I hit request again, I will get it again after that for another 2 weeks. So let's click on the holds section and see what we've got here. Okay, so we've got several different things here. We've got the hold that we just placed a few minutes ago here. So this is, and I've got a number of different things that I can do with it here. We've got this hold that I just placed as well. If I click where it says edit email, what that's going to do is I can edit for each hold that I have. I can pick, or I can enter an email address. I have to confirm it to make sure I got it typed in correctly. But basically, you can set this so that you'll be notified at a particular email address when that item is available on hold for you. You also have the ability to suspend a hold. If I click suspend hold, I can choose to suspend it for a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 60 days, so around 2 months, 90 days, so around 3 months, or 180 days, so about half a year. And as it says, you'll keep moving up the wait list, but the title won't become available to you while it's suspended. In other words, you'll keep going up the hold list as other people get it in front of you. And then when you reach the top of the holds list, you'll stay at the top. But if you're number 1 on the holds list and the item becomes available, but your hold is still suspended, then it's going to roll down to number 2 on the holds list. And so you'll stay number 1, but they will get the item before you do. But as soon as as soon as your suspension is, as soon as your hold is unsuspended and a copy becomes available, you'll be the first one to get it, essentially. So that's pretty useful if you find like several things are about to, if you find that several things are about to be available all at once, and you're like, oh, I'm not going to have time to read that, then you could suspend a hold, and that way you can make sure that you don't get six audiobooks at one time and don't have time to listen to them. That's pretty handy. Obviously, if you click remove down here, that's going to take you off the holds list. I'll click remove hold, and now it's gone. Great. So And I'll go ahead and remove this one too. So I can have up to 10 items on hold at any given time as well. The wish list, the way this works, as I mentioned before, if you click on any, if you're browsing any of the items and you find, and you find an item that you're interested in, but it's something that you don't want right now, this moment, you can click the little plus sign with the bookmark and add it to your wish list. So that way it's not really on hold for you and it's not taking up space in your holds, but it's also not, you also don't lose track of it and go, oh, what was that book that I saw before when I was browsing that looked really cool? You can come back here and you can be reminded of what it is. You can add up to 5,000 titles to your wish list, so you should be good to go. And you can also filter it. So if I click available now, then it's only going to show me items that I could check out at this moment. So that way I don't have to worry about stumbling across something that I'm really interested in, but finding out it's something that I can't get at the moment. Rated titles, if you do rate any titles from 1 to 5 stars, then you'll see them listed out here. If you don't, and I generally don't, then you won't see anything. Recommendations, these are things that you've recommended for the library to purchase. So you've said, hey, it'd be cool if we got this thing. Sometimes they'll purchase those items. Sometimes they won't. If they decide to purchase one, you'll see a button next to it, a borrow or place a hold or whatever, so that you can get it. And if they don't decide to purchase it, it'll still sit there. So you can see, I submitted this on the 11th. They're probably not going to purchase it, but it's here. So I know, I requested it so that I don't waste my recommendations. I can recommend 2 more titles for purchase right now. So the way it works is every 30 days, you can recommend up to 3 titles for purchase. So I've recommended 1 within the last 30 days. Once it gets to be 30 days from that, from the date that I recommended it, then I'll get another slot opened up and I can request more. So you can request up to 3 items for purchase within a rolling 30 days. If I click on history, I can see the history of items that I've checked out. I can turn this on and off in my settings if I want to, which I'll show you in a moment. But I can see, okay, I checked these out on this date and so on and so forth, and you can sort them in different ways. Oh, hi. The settings here are pretty straightforward. There's not a whole lot to talk about here. But I will say, so your lending periods, you can set a default lending period, either 7 days or 14 days. Usually I leave it set to 14 days because if I'm done with it early, I can always return it. You can choose whether your history, whether Overdrive is keeping track of your checkout history or not. Under audiences here, you can leave it as all audiences, or you can filter out or sort of select for certain types of content. For instance, if this is an account for a teen, for example, you may want to leave only juvenile and young adult selected here. If it's for an adult who has no interest in kid or teen content, then maybe you select general adult and mature adult and turn off juvenile and young adult. Kindle preference, if you check this, basically it'll hide the eBooks that, it'll show when you borrowed a book, it'll show check out such and such on your Kindle, and that's an interesting sort of setup that they have there. It's not too difficult, but it's a little odd because you have to send Kindle ebooks through Amazon in order for it to for books to get to your Kindle. High contrast, these are two accessibility options. The high contrast mode, if you turn that on, you get sort of yellow highlights and it's white text on a black background rather than black text on a white background. With certain folks with certain types of visual differences find this easier to read. So if that's you, you can turn that on. And then dyslexic font, if you turn that on, it switches all of the text on the website to this dyslexic friendly font that weights all the characters at the bottom so that it's easier for folks with dyslexia to read. It's kind of cool. I'll uncheck that. So let's talk just briefly about how holds work, which I forgot to detail a little bit earlier. So the way that holds work is this: basically, when you have an item on hold, what'll happen is you'll receive a notification via email when that item is available to check out. From there, you'll have 3 days to go in and check it out. So you'll get the email. You can sign into your Overdrive account, head to your holds here, and you'll see a big borrow button next to the item that's available. If you don't check it out at that time, after those 3 days, then it's going to go ahead and roll to the next person on the holds list. But if there's no one on the holds list, Overdrive will try again in about a week to deliver the hold to you. If there is someone on the holds list, then essentially you'll get bumped down. You'll still be number one on the holds list, but the next person will get it, similar to how it works if your hold is suspended. If you don't check it out at that point, then when the hold is re-delivered to you, then you lose access to it, and you'll have to start at the bottom of the holds list again if you decide you want that later on. So that's how that works. If you it doesn't check out to you automatically, you do have to manually go in and check it out, and that way we make sure that folks that nobody has it for 2 weeks who's not actually reading it or interested in it, and that way we use our collection wisely. So let's talk about the mobile version of Overdrive, the app that we use for Overdrive. Let's see. Let me turn on let me get some screen sharing happening on mobile here. Okay, cool. Here we go. All right. So I've got my phone connected here. If you're working on or if you want to access Overdrive on a mobile device, the best way to do it at this point is to use an app called Libby, Libby, just like the person's name. Excuse me. And if you're on an Android device, you'll find Libby in the Play Store. if you are on an Apple device like an iPhone or an iPad, you'll find it in the App Store. It's pretty straightforward, just where you'd find any other app. I'll tap on Libby and open it on up. Okay, so here's the app, and from inside the app here, I can see I could see a very similar view to what we saw on the website. A lot of the same kind of new featured things are showing up here when I first hop in. By the way, you will need to sign in with your library card and your PIN on Libby, just like you would with just like we did on the website. The only difference with Libby is you will actually also need to tell it which library you have your card with, so that because a lot of different libraries use these this service. So you'll need to make sure that you do that, but it's no big deal. It's a super quick process. Once you've found something that you're interested in, you can tap on it, and you can see some of the details. The interface here looks a little bit different. It's not all that dissimilar, but it does look a little bit different. I have my borrow button here. I have read sample, and I have a tag button here, which is a little bit different. The tag button replaces both the rating system and the wish list all in one feature. So when I tap on that, there are 3 tags that are here by default. There's the stack of books, so that's your reading list or your wish list. There's the thumbs up and there's the thumbs down, and you can also add other tags either with emoji or with text names. Doesn't matter what you use really, long as it works for you. The extreme downside to this is, unfortunately, the tags are only stored locally in Libby, by which I mean the tags. By which I mean, if you get a new phone or a new tablet or whatever, the tags, or if you sign in on a different device, the tags don't come with you. They don't sync. And they don't sync with your wish list either. So that's pretty unfortunate. I don't know why they haven't fixed that yet. It's been several years, but that's still the way it works, unfortunately. Hopefully they will get that squared away before too long. Other than that, though, this is a really nice, friendly, easy to use app. And there is an Overdrive app, but I do prefer this one to that one. Let's go ahead. I'm going to borrow this one. When I tap on borrow down here, it just spins for a second. And then it starts to, and then it gives me read with Kindle, because I use a Kindle as my e-reading device. Gives me keep browsing and then go to shelf. If I tap on go to shelf, then I can see all the things that are checked out to me. I have a read with Kindle button there. I have manage loan. If I tap on that, I can return it early. I can read it with a different, with the app itself or with a different type of device. I can see when it's due, and I can tap here at the top where it says the America's Test Kitchen, blah, 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 to see the details of the item again. If I tap on the picture, then it's going to take me in and prompt me to sign in to my Amazon account and then send it to my Kindle device. But of course, you can also, depending on the ebook, you can also read it in this app. So if I tap read with Libby, then it's going to pop up and give me this e-reader functionality inside the app. If I tap in the center of the screen, I can see all my reading sort of controls down here. It says 0%. It's kind of loading to tell me where I am exactly in the book down there at the bottom. I can change the look if I tap that little A button at the top. Oop, come on now. If I tap the little A button at the top, then that allows me to change the appearance here. I can slide this little slider to change the size of my text. I can change the lighting, so basically I can see things in a different color scheme. And then book design down here. This one has, which gives me essentially just different fonts and things like that, including the dyslexic font there. With this particular book, it looks like it's not giving me as many options, probably because there are a lot of, it's a cookbook, so there are a fair number of photos in here, I imagine. But with most books, you should have plenty of options in terms of how what the color scheme should be and all that good stuff. I can search anywhere within the book by tapping the little magnifying glass. And I can hit the little bookmark button to go to my bookmarks. And up at the top right, there's a little, it's kind of hard to see, but there's a little bookmark, a little indent here that I can tap right there to bookmark this particular spot in the book and be able to come back to it later. When you check something out on Libby, it does automatically, particularly if it's an audiobook, it does automatically get downloaded. You'll notice it says 89% down here under the audiobook that I just downloaded. So it's in the middle of doing that right now. It will download automatically unless you tell it, essentially, unless you go into the settings and tell it not to do that. And that's pretty useful because otherwise you have to, later on, go in and, otherwise you'd have to sort of later on go in and manually trigger it to download, which could be sort of a hassle. If I want to read a magazine in here, I'll tap on that. Open in Libby. And I get basically the same reading options. Up here at the top, I get a zoom feature as well. So I can zoom in and out and really see up close what's going on. But once I zoom out, then I'm basically on sort of the normal view. Your magazines, just like the books and the ebooks and audiobooks, are checked out to you for 14 days, 2 weeks. And so you'll want to, oh, that's right. The 89% is not from downloading it. It's from when I was listening to it previously. I'm pretty sure I had the sleep timer on because I did not listen to 89% of that audiobook. Okay. So that's, and then when you want to switch between your between browsing for books and reading them or listening to them, you just tap library to browse, and then shelf down here at the bottom to go to the things you have checked out and your holds and all of that good stuff. Sometimes you'll see a little dot next to the little person up at the top of the screen there, top right. When I tap on that, it'll give me notifications about what's going on with my account, and I can take a look at those. Hide for now. And that's pretty much it for Overdrive and Libby. What questions do y'all have for me before we move on to talking about Flipster? All right, great. Well, if you do think of other questions during the remainder of the class, just let me know and we'll tackle those. But otherwise, let's keep going, and let's talk about Flipster. All right, let's see. So I'm going to head back to cals.org here. And I will click on, once again, that login link up at the top right. And I'll come down here where it says Flipster and click download a magazine. So I have the option to sign in with Google, although I do need to, I'll need to, which is one option, or I can just enter in my library card information. By the way, if you're in the building at the library, it won't prompt you for this, but you do need to enter your library card number if you're accessing it from elsewhere. Once I do that, I have the Flipster homepage here. So in Flipster, we have a bunch of different, or you can see the various magazines that we have available in our Flipster collection. So let's see, I'll click on this Eating Well, and well, let's actually talk about this page just briefly. Doesn't take very long. So up at the top, we have latest issues, and this is going to just show us the latest issues of each magazine that that we have available here in Flipster. If you're interested in reading the latest issue, you just click on it. So I'll click on this in a second. Down here, we have all magazines, and it's just going to list them all out. You can use these arrow buttons to move and see more for the full list of the magazines we have available. And so this will, even if a magazine doesn't have a fairly recent issue, then you will probably you'll probably still see it here. So let's see. And then there are categories over here. So if there's a particular type of magazine you're looking for, you can use these categories to navigate there. If I click on this, then it's going to open up a new tab for me. And in this new tab, it'll load the magazine, and I'll be able to just read it as though the magazine were in front of me. But there are some extra convenient little things you can do. For one, you'll notice, you'll notice when I'm kind of in the middle here, if I click, I've got kind of a little magnifying glass pointer. If I click, I can zoom in using that, and that way I can see more detail on the page here. You'll also notice for each feature that's called out on the front of the magazine, it actually lights up with this little yellow box, and that's a link. I can click on the link to get to exactly the or to get to that article. So the best and safest green kitchen cleaners. I'll click on this, and it's going to take me directly to that. So it lists it out for me and says, hey, these are ones you might want to look at. And again, if you find a link somewhere in the magazine, usually it's going to be live, and you could click to go directly to one of these websites if you decided you wanted to. Over here on the left, we've got some navigation tools. I'll go ahead and turn the camera off for a moment. And by the way, if you have, for example, something like a to be or a this article continues on X page or whatever, you'll be able to use a link for that as well. So, the table of contents is a good example. We'll hop in there in a second. I'm going to turn off my video so you can see the top corner again. Okay, up at the top, we have a full screen button. If I click on this, I can view the magazine full screen. That's kind of nice. I'll just hit escape to get out of there. Um, I have the ability to search, but we'll come back to that in a moment. Let's go pages here. If I move my mouse over pages, I can see a little preview image of every 2-page spread in the entire magazine. So that's really handy because that'll get me, that'll allow me to browse to exactly where I want to go. That's interesting. Skipped some pages. That's odd. Don't know what that's about. Weird. Anyway, so if I wanted to check out these recipes, I'll click here. And we've got grilled pork and pepper tacos with jalapeno lime dressing. That sounds wonderful. If I'm interested in cooking this, which I'm interested in eating it, if nothing else, I can also print. If I come over here, I'll move my mouse over print. I have print pages in view or print all pages. If I do print all pages, that will print you, honestly, a very expensive copy of this whole magazine. If before you do this, see if you can just get a hold of that issue of the magazine, because my goodness, that's going to cost a fortune in printer ink if you decide to print all pages, particularly if you print them in color. Just bear that in mind. I would probably only print these pages so that I can get the recipes here. To move back and forth between, to turn the pages, essentially, I can do these left and right arrows. And if I click on all issues up here, then I can actually see all the issues that we have available of this magazine in Flipster. And that'll actually be all issues of the magazine that have been published since Flipster added it to their list of options, basically. So I can go all the way back to January and February of 2017. And you can actually see the contents right here as well. So I can, these are the contents of the issue that I'm reading, but I could click on, any of these to jump directly to that particular article. There we go. And when I click on search up here, I can actually search either this issue or all issues. So, soy sauce. I press enter, it should search for it. Doesn't look like it found anything. Oh, there we go. Just being a little slow. So there we go. 17 easy, healthy recipes, or faux jerky right here. Although it's got soy and then Worcestershire sauce. That's a little weird. If I search all issues, I'm probably gonna find a lot. So you can, but that's convenient because you could search for not just things in this issue, but things in all the issues that are available on Flipster, and that could be quite a lot. Under settings here, I can change it to show only one page at a time rather than the 2-page spreads. I can choose whether or not the view will zoom out when I turn the page, and I can choose how my view will be fit onto the screen, either height and width, so I can see the whole spread or the whole page. Excuse me, width, so it will cut off the top and bottom, but make sure that it's showing me the full width, or height, so it'll cut off the edges if I've got a taller screen, the left and right edges if I've got a taller screen, but make sure that it's showing me the full height of the page. There's also, of course, a Flipster app on mobile. So let me fire that up. All right, here we go. Flipster, Flipster. All right. So there's the Flipster app. If I hit this, my login has expired, so I'm going to put in my sign in. There we go. Now I'm signed in as me, and I can browse. I can find an issue, whatever looks good. I can, once I tap on a magazine, I can either hit download to download an issue of that particular, or to download the latest issue, which maybe they don't make this magazine anymore. Or I can come down here and find the older issues that are available on Flipster and download any of them just by tapping the little down arrow right there. Or by tapping on the cover art. There we go. Well, maybe just by tapping the down arrow. So I've tapped on that. I'm going to get this December 2015 issue. It's thinking about it. And I'm going to go back. When I tap my shelf, here we go. Oh, there it is. So it's up here at the top left. When I tap on that, then I can read that issue, and I can just swipe to turn the pages. I wonder, yeah. Yeah, so I can see the 2-page spreads by tapping in the middle, and I can go full screen by tapping this little button right up here. I can bookmark specific spots in the magazine with this button. And with this button, I can go to the table of contents and get directly to where I need to, where I want to be in the magazine. And that's pretty much it. Let's see. What questions do y'all have for me before we wrap it up for today? All right. I don't see anything. If you do think of a question after the fact, please feel free to email it to me. My email address to use is digital@cals.org. And of course, come on back next week at the same time, 1 o'clock, for your digital library, movies, music, and more. Or maybe it's music, movies, and more. I don't know, y'all. And I hope that in the meantime, you have a fantastic rest of the day. Stay safe out there, wear a mask, wash your hands, and I will see you next time.